Today we are going to be starting chapter 10, and we're starting with lesson 10-1 called Solid Geometry. I think most of you will find that you actually enjoy this part of geometry, so let's get started on it. I am going to try to move through these videos quickly to save most of your time for using on homework. And so if there's anything that you need to come back and review on your own, please do so to make sure that you have a good understanding. A lot of the beginning of this lesson is just going to be reading. So that's something that you can easily come back to after we've run through it together. So let's start with why I learned this. Some farmers in Japan grow cube-shaped watermelons to save space in small refrigerators. Each fruit costs about the equivalent of $80 US. Can you imagine fruit that costs $80? Look at those watermelons. That's pretty cool. All right, let's move on to the introduction to the lesson. Three-dimensional figures, which we also called solids, can be made up of flat or curved surfaces. Now this is why it's called solid geometry, because we're looking at solids or three-dimensional figures. Again, they can be made up of flat or curved surfaces. Each flat surface is called a face. Let's look right here. So a face is this top rectangle or the side rectangle or this side rectangle or the bottom. The edge is the segment that is the intersection of two faces. So let's look at an edge. Here's an edge between these two triangles. Rectangles. Here's an edge between the top and the side. Here's an edge between the bottom and the side. And lastly, a vertex is the point that is the intersection of three or more faces. So let's look for a vertex. Here's a vertex that is three or more faces meeting. So we have this side, and the bottom. Or here's a vertex where the face and two sides meet. So that's all pretty self-explanatory, and those are not new words to you based on our previous studies. Now let's move on to really understanding about three-dimensional figures. A prism is formed by two parallel congruent polygonal faces called bases. Let's look at that. Two parallel and congruent polygonal faces that serve as the bases of this prism. They are connected by faces that are parallelograms. So the sides, or what we would think of as the sides, are parallelograms that connect the bases. Now, if you've ever looked through a prism to see what light does or what the prism actually does to light, you will remember that it has the bases that are parallel and that are the same or congruent. They're the same shape, same size, but it doesn't have to be a triangle on the top and bottom. It can be other shapes as well. Now let's move on to a cylinder. A cylinder is formed by two parallel congruent circular bases. Let's look at that. Two parallel circular bases, so one on top, one on bottom, and a curved surface that connects the base. So we don't have a polygonal face that connects those two. We have this curved surface that makes the side all the way around. All right, the third one is a pyramid. A pyramid is formed by a polygonal base and triangular faces that meet at a common vertex. Let's look at that. A pyramid is formed by a polygonal base, so it doesn't have to be a triangle, but this one is. And then it does have triangular faces. So however many sides that polygonal base has, that's how many triangular sides we're going to have. And you can see in this case we have three triangular sides that meet at a common vertex. So there's not a base on top. These all come to a point or a common vertex on top, like the ancient Egyptian pyramids that we associate with the word pyramid. And lastly, a cone. We think of like an ice cream cone. A cone is formed by a circular base and a curved surface that connects the base to a vertex. So we have a circular base, so we're not going to have other shapes in a cone, we're just going to have the circular base. And then we're going to have a curved side, like we have a curved side on a cylinder, except for this time there's no matching base on top. Instead, similar to a pyramid, this comes to a point at the top. All right, let's look below at a few extensions of this. And let me turn my camera. I think that's going to work really well, so I'll just hold it here. All right, a cube is a prism. Actually, hold on. Let me see if I turn it back this way. Y'all bear with me. Okay. A cube is a prism with 6 square faces. We're just going to start with that information for a second. So a cube, you know what a cube is. A cube is a square. I'm trying to be careful to actually draw a square. That has also a square matching it on top and then square sides. So it's a 6-sided figure. It's a prism because following our definition above, it has 2 parallel congruent polygonal faces that make the bases, and then it has parallelograms for all of its sides all the way around. So a cube is a prism with 6 square faces. Other prisms and pyramids are named for the shape of their bases. So let's take a minute to look at that. These are all prisms because they all follow the definition of a prism with 2 bases that are parallel and congruent. And I'm going to pause there for just a minute and I will restart in the next video.